Thanks so much, Shannon. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today to talk about National Stalking Awareness Month and planning for a successful one. As I said, my name is Julia. I'm the Resource and Training Specialist here at SPARC. We're the Stalking Prevention Awareness and Resource Center. I started working in the anti-violence field nearly 20 years ago when I was working at my university's Rape Crisis Center. And now I am at SPARC providing trainings, doing one-on-one technical assistance, creating resources, working with partners. Loving my job. So we at SPARC are funded by the Office on Violence Against Women, the Department of Justice. And thank you so much to OVW for funding us to provide TTA to professionals all across the country. And our standard reminder and disclaimer that today, everything that I'm going to be saying and sharing are not the views necessarily of OVW. So today, in planning, in talking about National Stalking Awareness Month, remember that pretty much everything that I'm going to talk about is also on our website. In fact, today I will be literally going through the Stalking Awareness Month page on our website and showing you the resources that we have. So that you all know, our website is stalkingawareness.org. And in addition to all of the awareness materials that I'm going to go over today, we also have a whole lot more. So if you decide that you are interested and want to learn more, we have lots of recorded webinar trainings. We have fact sheets and infographics. We have guides for responding to stalking for victim advocates, for prosecutors, for law enforcement, for judges, for campus professionals. We have so many resources on our website. So please check that out if you haven't already. And a good way to find out about new resources and training events, so like webinar recordings that we're doing, or sorry, live webinars that we're doing, is to sign up for our newsletter. And you can also do that on the website, stalkingawareness.org. And if you don't already follow SPARC on social media, I invite you to follow us legally. You can search for our handle, Follow Us Legally, on social media, where you can probably tell from that handle, and if you already follow us on social media, that stalking is a topic we take very seriously. And yet we also do like to have fun as we talk about it when we can. So check us out in those other locations as well as today. So why does stalking awareness even matter? Why do we have a National Stalking Awareness Month in January? Well, we would argue that stalking awareness both helps formal support systems and responders as well as survivors and informal support systems. Our efforts at stalking awareness are really aimed at improving the ability of folks to identify stalking behaviors, to reflect on what they're currently doing and how they can improve their response, to dispel myths about stalking, to really better understand and be able to recognize the potential dangers and risks associated with stalking, as well as to be able to direct survivors to appropriate help and resources, and overall validate survivors' experiences with stalking. And big picture, of course, to affect cultural change and public discourse. So thank you all for joining us in these efforts. At SPARC, if you have been to previous trainings or webinars, you've probably heard us talk about how stalking is criminal, traumatic, and dangerous, and how it happens at very similar prevalence rates to other VAWA crimes, Violence Against Women Act crimes, domestic violence, and sexual assault in particular. And yet the conversation around stalking, the response to stalking, the services for stalking victims are simply not at the same level. And so that's one of the reasons that we at SPARC exist. that OVW funds us and that we work really hard to try to change that. And one of the reasons that we work hard on National Stalking Awareness Month is because, as the slide says on your screen, research suggests that victims rely on notions of what a real or legitimate crime looks like, and these perceptions impact reporting decisions. So if we as a society are not taking stalking as seriously as other crimes and victimizations and not recognizing that it is criminal, traumatic, and dangerous, that has a real effect on the victims of stalking and on their reporting decisions as well. And actually, we do see that the majority of stalking victims do not report the stalking nor seek services. Now, they might report a different crime or victimization, they might seek services for something else, but we really see that they are not reporting or seeking services for the stalking. And there was one study done that looked at asking victims in particular why they don't report to the police. And there are lots and lots of reasons, more than those listed on the screen, though there are a lot here, and I'm sure you all could come up with even more from your own work that you've seen or from your own brain, putting yourself in the shoes of a stalking victim. And awareness efforts won't help or change all of the reasons that victims don't report or seek services. But there are some that I think awareness efforts really can make a difference in changing. So looking at the list on your screen, would you all write in the chat to let me know which ones do you think awareness efforts can have an impact on? And I'll give you a moment to think. I didn't say at the beginning that audience participation was required today. And I can't force you to do it, but I really would appreciate it if you did. Oh, I'm seeing folks going all of the above, every single item. All right, I love the enthusiasm. Not reported enough, police wouldn't help, minor incident, not sure if a crime occurred. Yeah, thank you all for jumping in and typing into the chat. So I do think awareness efforts could help with every single one. I agree. But these are a few that you now see stars next to that I think can have some of the biggest impact. If victims think that it wasn't important enough, that it's a private or personal matter, they're not clear a crime has occurred, or they felt ashamed or embarrassed, our awareness efforts can really help survivors, their friends and family who they tell and talk to about the situation, as well as other folks who aren't the police providing services to victim. Awareness efforts can help all of those people respond more appropriately and take victims seriously when they talk about stalking, because we know that stalking victims frequently don't use the word stalking. They tend to not describe what they're experiencing as stalking. And if you ask a stalking victim, are you being stalked? They're likely to say no. However, when we start asking and talking about specific stalking behaviors, the incidents and the pattern of behavior that are happening to them, as an outsider, I can pretty clearly identify that's what is happening fits my definition of stalking. So raising awareness of what stalking is, as well as the fact that it's criminal, traumatic, and dangerous, can really help victims and the people in their lives to better identify that stalking is happening and to help victims get appropriate services. So in addition to not reporting to police, we actually see that a pretty small number of stalking victims seek victim services, only 16%. And nearly a quarter of those who do seek services don't actually receive any for their stalking. And that's sad and upsetting. And also one of the things that we are working to change, and awareness efforts, again, can help more victims seek services, more friends and family encourage victims of stalking to seek the professional support that can help them and that they deserve, and for more stalking victims to receive services when they do report, instead of being brushed off or told that they can't receive services, or it's not a big enough deal, or it's not a crime, etc. So one of the big things about stalking awareness is talking about who looks like a stalker. What do people expect? What's our stereotype of who a stalker is? And if you have a clear stereotype or vision in your mind, please go ahead and type it in the chat, because I would love to hear it. What we most often hear, actually, you know what? Before I say what we most often hear, I'm going to wait and see if anyone types in the chat. Can be anyone. That's my favorite response. Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely can be anyone. And I am seeing from some folks that you already know a bit about stalking. But what we most often hear from people who do not know a lot about stalking is, as some folks are saying in the chat, a creepy guy, someone wearing a hoodie, following you in a van, in a trench coat, someone hiding in the bushes. Absolutely. And so people tend to have this image of stalking and a stalker in their mind, of someone in a hoodie or trench coat following somebody else down the street. But actually, most often, that we know that stalkers and their victims know each other. So it's not a stranger following a victim down the street, though that does happen, but it's not the norm. Much more likely is a victim to be stalked by a friend, an acquaintance, a colleague, a classmate, a neighbor, a current or former intimate partner. So the vast, vast majority of stalkers and victims know each other. And there's actually been some research done that victims who knew their offenders are more likely to report being scared and feeling fear, and yet also less likely to report to the police. So if we compare victims who know their offenders with those who are stalked by a stranger, those who know are experiencing more fear as well as less likely to report. So hopefully our awareness efforts can change some of this so that more victims are comfortable going to seek services and even to report to the police or legal system if that's what they want to do. And similarly, there's some research showing that non-specialist police officers and laypersons share the common misperception that stranger stalkers present a greater threat to the personal safety of their victims than acquaintances or ex-partners, but we know that that's actually not the case. So victims are feeling more fear when they know they're stalkers, and actually, the better a stalker and victim know each other, the more dangerous, threatening the stalker is likely to be. However, non-specialist police officers and laypersons tend to think the opposite. So there's that common misperception that stranger stalkers are the most dangerous and threatening, when it's actually the folks who know their victims best. And though most stalking victims are not reporting to police or seeking victim services, we do know that most stalking victims tell a friend, family member, or someone else who they know and trust. And that's another reason why our awareness efforts are so important, and to go even beyond professional response responders, because victims are most often talking to someone who they know and trust, who probably has no training or experience in victim services. And so hopefully all of you joining in with our efforts for awareness and National Stalking Awareness Month will help those friends, family members, colleagues, etc., be able to better respond to the stalking victim in their life. But most of us who have not received training on stalking have this idea of stalking in our heads that doesn't quite match up with the reality. And one of the ways that we see that play out a lot is people using the word stalking very casually. So you've probably heard people say things like in the graphic on the screen, and using the word stalking casually in conversation, especially about social media, Facebook stalking, Instagram stalking, Snapchat stalking. And stalkers do quite literally use all of those social media platforms to stalk. But usually, when someone is talking about Facebook stalking, they're not referring to actual real life stalking. They are referring to looking at their friends' photos or doing some research on a potential dating partner and looking at their profile. So next time you catch yourself talking about social media stalking, or you hear someone casually use the word stalking in conversation, I would challenge you to stop, consider, think for a minute, is this a real stalking situation? Or is this a casual use of the word stalking that ultimately is kind of minimizing and trivializing the real criminal, traumatic, and dangerous victimization that we call stalking? So instead of the word stalking, here are some ideas we have come up with as suggested alternatives. So if someone is talking about contact and communication, instead of, oh, sorry, I know I've been stalking you. I just really need an answer to that question. Well, instead of stalking, try bothering you, being annoying, nagging you, bugging you, asking again and again. There are lots of other words to use. Similarly, for instead of using the word stalking to talk about meeting up, you could say running into someone, seeing them again, following, looking for. And our suggestions for obsession are things like coming on too strong. I can't get enough of your photos or posts. I'm really into or obsessed with this thing. I can't stop thinking about it. And then, as I already mentioned, that doing research, which people commonly refer to as Facebook stalking or internet stalking, instead using words like reading, asking about, researching, trying to find information on, looking up on LinkedIn, Snapchat, even creeping. I'm sure there are other slang words that that you could throw in here. But really consider how using the word stalking casually in conversation, if someone is a stalking victim or has experienced stalking behaviors and they hear other folks using the word casually in conversation when it's not criminal, traumatic, or dangerous, that's just that's tough on the victim. And even if a victim is not around and experiencing that, it still contributes to this overall societal perception that stalking is no big deal, that it's not criminal, traumatic, or dangerous. And we can talk about Facebook stalking someone when we're really just looking at our friends' vacation photos from Mexico, you know. And another way that we at SPARC talk about a lot and see stalking showing up in US culture as not being taken seriously and not being portrayed as the real criminal, traumatic, and dangerous victimization that it is in movies and TV shows. So If you recognize some of the characters on the screen, you might have seen some or all of these movies and TV shows, but stalking behaviors are usually not in horror movies, showing the realities of how dangerous and traumatic stalking can be. Instead, stalking behaviors are usually shown as romantic, funny, heroic, or edgy. So, I don't know if any of you have ever considered this or if you're Twilight fans, but if you in real life um, woke up and had a vampire or a human watching you sleep from the corner of your room, um, would any of you find that romantic? I would say that's super creepy. Um, Even if my husband was doing that to me, whom I love dearly, I would be super creeped out. Why are you staring at me from the corner of the room while I am sleeping? That's weird, and concerning. But in movies, it's shown as romantic. We see a whole lot of rom-coms of the relentless pursuit despite victims saying no and saying go away and stop it. But in the movies, it's just fun. And it's used for the guy to get the girl. And I want to be clear that those movies are not themselves a problem. If you like those movies, I'm not saying that that's a problem and you have to boycott them and stop watching them. Nope, absolutely not. You can continue watching them and enjoying them. The problem is that those movies portraying stalking as romantic, funny, heroic, and edgy are the only ones talking about stalking. So we're left with this fantasy version of stalking instead of the realities of stalking. And that affects how we all think of stalking behaviors, and whether we're taking them seriously and whether we're thinking of them as dangerous or we're thinking of them as romantic or funny. We have a whole webinar recording. I think it's a 90-minute one where we dive into this. There's also a pop culture detective shorter video with lots of great examples about this as well. And we have a new short awareness video that dives into the same topic. So if you want to learn more or have an event on this specific aspect of stalking awareness in January, we have materials to help you with that. But instead of society's, this overall society understanding of stalking as romantic, funny, heroic, or edgy, the reality is that stalking, as I think I've said 100 times already, is criminal, traumatic, and dangerous. And so thank you all for showing up today to help us promote the realities of stalking in January, National Stalking Awareness Month, and also beyond. January, absolutely, we want folks to jump in, chime in, use the month as a time to spread awareness, but also, actually, we want you to do it year-round, really. So hopefully January is just entry point, and you will join us as SPARC does the awareness efforts all year long. So now I'm going to go through some of the resources that we have prepared for you and are on our website to help make it easy on you to raise awareness during January. We call National Stalking Awareness Month NSAM, and our theme tagline for the month is Know It, Name It, Stop It. You have to know it in order to name it and in order to stop it. And then within those, we have, for NSAM, we have these 4 categories of different awareness efforts you can undertake: learn, teach, share, and reflect. And all the resources that we put out, particularly for NSAM, are available in English as well as Spanish. Now, all of our regular materials are not always available in Spanish. Some of them are. Excuse me. And we actually also have our documentation log and our victim handbook available in 8 additional languages. But all of our NSAM materials in particular are available both in English and Spanish. So let's get to it. I see Emma is in the chat adding in links to some of the stuff that I have referenced, and also in particular to links to the URLs to our website to go through the NSAM materials. So if you want to pull that up on your phone or on a second screen you have, go ahead. But now I'm really going to walk through what we have. So for NSAM, learn, teach, share, and reflect. So the first thing that we're asking folks to do is to learn more about stalking. It's prevalent, it's dangerous, it's traumatic, and it's frequently misunderstood. So some of the ways that we suggest for learning more about stalking are to attend our January webinars. We're going to do a context is key this year, and we're also going to do a survivor story roundtable where you can hear directly from survivors about their experiences with stalking. We also have approximately 1 million. No, I haven't counted them, but we have a whole lot of recorded webinar trainings if you want to dive deeper into a particular topic. And all of our regular resources, as I mentioned, our practitioner guides for different disciplines, our fact sheets, we have self-assessments for different types of agencies and organizations. We have a map where you can look up stalking and related statutes for whatever jurisdiction you're in or your nearby jurisdiction, since stalking doesn't usually stay within state lines, and invite SPARC to do a training in 2025. And as you are thinking about this learning during NSAM, think about not only yourself, but your agency, your community, your partners, your CCR, your DV fatality review team, whoever it is, who can you help to learn more? Who can you invite to join you on your journey in learning more about stalking and setting aside time specifically in January to learn about stalking? And then also, second category, teaching others. So a lot of those learning categories could also be applied to teaching others. Absolutely. And in addition, teaching your agency, your colleagues, partner organizations, community about stalking. We have a template press release or letter to the editor that you can personalize and send out. Try to get published in a local newspaper or put out on your own blog, an organization press release. We also have public awareness workshops. So we have one general one. We also have one for campuses, and those workshops on stalking are a full curriculum. So we have slides, we have a facilitator guide, we have videos that you can use, we have handouts, we have activities. We, again, try to make it as easy as possible on you. So we have a full curriculum ready for you to use. We also have a resource that has lots of ideas for planning a public awareness campaign. So incorporating stalking into other campaigns that you're already doing, or doing one on stalking in particular. And so if you've never planned a public awareness campaign, that would be a great place to start. And even if you have planned one before, it has some, I hope, useful ideas for making awareness campaigns successful. We also, so before I was talking about how stalking in movies is portrayed as romantic, funny, edgy, or heroic, and we have actually a little workshop presentation about media portrayals of stalking. So we have, I mentioned the video and the webinar recording already, but we also have some slides that you can use if you wanted to teach others about that, or even to do like a lunch and learn with our webinar recording on 90 minutes of listening to my colleague Dana talk about how stalking is portrayed in movies and TV, watching that recording as a group and then talking about it afterwards would be tons of fun. We have brochures and posters that you can order as printed materials, and we will mail to you free of charge. So you can put them in your office or around campus, at the library, things like that, to teach others about what stalking is. Particularly for folks on campuses doing prevention education or awareness education programs. We have ideas for integrating stalking into existing programs, new student orientation, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, all sorts of campus education programs. We have lots of ideas there. And then the final one up here for teaching folks about stalking is our January 18th Day of Action for Stalking Awareness. So this coming January, we will be doing this campaign for only the second time. So if you participated last year, thank you so much. If you didn't, you still have a unique opportunity to jump in and start early on. It's only the second time we're doing it. So we have here another kind of press release, letter to the editor, newsletter blurb that you can use, personalize, and or use our sample template language explaining the day of action. And I will explain more about what the day of action is in a moment. So learn, teach, share. We have so many ideas for how you can share information about stalking and NSAM. We create daily social media posts for you to use during January. We also have available on the website images that you can use on your social media pages and your email signature as your Zoom background, like the one I have right now, except it's a little different because it's for NSAM, not just SPARC. We have newsletter blurbs and broken out by different agencies. So a law enforcement audience, or a victim services audience, or campus. We have template language that you can use describing what stalking is and NSAM is. We also have a template proclamation. So January is literally National Stalking Awareness Month, meaning that both the White House and Congress annually for 21 years have proclaimed January officially as National Stalking Awareness Month in the US, and we work with Congress to draft some language and provide information about that every year. And we also have this draft proclamation for you so that as you know, you can ask your state, your county, your city to also declare Stalking Awareness Month in January. I mentioned before, we have posters and brochures that we print and can mail to you free of charge. So you can use the order form on our website to share information in that way. We have lots of short awareness videos, infographics, fact sheets, lots and lots of professional resources that you can share. And planning your own creative activities. We would love to hear from you what your ideas are for sharing information about stalking in January and beyond. So I want to go into a little bit of detail about the social media posts and the January 18th Day of Action. So this is a little preview of the web page for the daily social media posts. We have a Word document that you can download and see our graphics and our captions all laid out for you. You can download an individual graphic if you want to post, if you don't like all of them or don't want to post them 31 days in a row. We also just have that download all daily post graphics is just a zip file where you can download them all at once. So again, we have these in English and in Spanish. And in addition to seeing them all on the web page, you can also follow us on social media. Again, our handle is @followuslegally, and you can repost what we post because we are certainly going to be posting every single day in January. And so our final category, learn, teach, share, and reflect. This is a chance. These are our ideas for helping you to reflect on your response to stalking and the response of your community and your partners. So we have a certificate of appreciation that you can download and write in someone's name, sign, etc., and give that to champions and change makers in your community. We have a commitment pledge of some ideas for things you are committed to doing, to raising awareness around stalking, to listening to survivors, to basically raising awareness and learning more about stalking. We have also a to-do list of suggested activities, things that you can do during the month. And so that could be a public or private to-do list where you take ours, print it out, you can add in other things, post it on your office door or on a bulletin board, or just keep it on your fridge at home for you as a reminder. And then we have self-assessment checklists for victim service agencies, campuses, and law enforcement to go through the checklist and assess their own responses to stalking and how they are identifying and responding to it, supporting survivors, holding offenders accountable, and then looking for ways that their response could be improved. And then finally, we have a Spotify playlist of songs we have found, realized, curated over the years, where the lyrics are really creepy and about stalking behaviors, despite being, well, they're often popular songs, though not always, but it's usually songs where we don't realize that the lyrics are about stalking behaviors or super creepy. And again, part of that normalizing of stalking behaviors and normalizing it in such a way that we think it's romantic, funny, edgy, or heroic and not criminal, traumatic, and dangerous like it really is. So in addition to all of those materials that we have created on the NSAM 2025 web pages in English and Spanish, we also have a web page about the Day of Action. And I'm seeing in the chat someone asking about a specific song in the playlist. I don't know because it's a long playlist, but I will look those up because we're always looking for new ideas. So please don't hesitate to email us if you have ideas for new songs. We use it a lot during trainings as kind of background noise and to introduce ideas about stalking. And yes, we absolutely welcome you to take our materials and adapt it to your agency. So someone is asking and saying that they are based in Canada, and we at SPARC are funded to support US-based folks, of course, Department of Justice, US Department of Justice, Office on Violence Against Women, but everything that's on our website is freely available for you to take and use and adapt to your context. We just ask that you keep the SPARC logo on it or reference SPARC in some way, since if you're using stuff that we created, basically. But you can take it and run with it, absolutely. And we would love to hear about it if you do. So the Day of Action for Stalking Awareness is January 18th, and I'm going to play a short video explaining to you what it is, and then talk about how we're asking for you to get involved. So January 18th, our day of action for stalking awareness, we are asking folks to post a photo of themselves by themselves or with colleagues, wearing or with something sparkly or shiny. So January 18th is the anniversary of the murder of Peggy Klinke, and Peggy's sister is one of the founders of National Stalking Awareness Month. Not even a year after her sister's murder, started working with folks around the country and in DC and working with Congress to make January National Stalking Awareness Month because that is the month when Peggy was murdered. And one thing that Debbie says about Peggy as she goes around the country and works with SPARC and others doing trainings and talking about stalking is that Peggy had a sparkling personality and would light up a room. But as the stalking continued and continued, we saw that shine fade. So we are asking for folks to help us bring back the sparkle for Peggy and for all victims and survivors of stalking. So as you are out and about in December for New Year's, the first 2 weeks of January, if you see a beautiful sparkling tree, it's a time of year where there are a lot of sparkly trees around. Snap a photo in front of it and then post it on January 18th. Or if you do anything sparkly for New Year's Eve, snap a photo that you can then post on January 18th. So last year was the first time we did this, and here are some examples from last year. We actually last January did some events in DC with OVW, and so the picture on the bottom right is actually us from the SPARC event there. You can see on the top right, that's from an organization that staff took a photo together, and then superimposed themselves on a sparkly background. And then a DA's office posted a photo where I think they took the photo in front of their office sign and then added the NSAM logo on top of it. So lots of different ways for you to get involved. And we would love to have you get involved personally, your organizations, and share the idea about the day of action to get more and more folks involved. We had a great turnout last year for our first year, but as you all know, these things take time. So we would really love your support in making the day of action and these sparkly photos to bring back the sparkle for Peggy and all victims and survivors of stalking. We'd love to have your help to make it bigger and louder than last year. And in addition to posting the photo, we also have, as I mentioned as I was going through the Learn, Teach, Share, and Reflect, we have a sample newsletter blurb / letter to the editor / press release about the day of action. And then, of course, we also have those same things for NSAM. We have the commitment pledge, we have the proclamation. So all those other things all the resources that we have for NSAM for you to use can also be used to promote the day of action or highlight on January 18th. So a few examples from past years that I'll go through, and then we'll have time for questions. So here are two little news articles. Actually, last year, the governor of New York State declared January as Stalking Awareness Month in January. Throughout the state, declared, January as Stalking Awareness Month throughout New York State, and also declared January 18th as the Stalking Awareness Day of Action. So at the state level, at the county level, at the city level, the town of Parker in Colorado also declared January as Stalking Awareness Month. So no matter how big or small the jurisdiction, every single one counts. And we would love to have more and more people declaring Stalking Awareness Month in January. We also see a lot of tabling events at universities and DVSA organizations. So on social media, And of course, promoting this on social media helps to get the word out as well. But if you have a conference, a training, or like a university campus where you can park a table down or create a nice bulletin board, those are also great ways to get the word out about January and about stalking in particular. We see a lot of events. As you might expect, we at SPARC are pretty busy in January providing training. So you can certainly request that we work with you to do a training in January. We're pretty busy, so if you haven't already, we might or might not be able to do it with you in January. But the good news is that we can talk about stalking the other 11 months of the year. Don't worry. So please do still ask us if you're interested in partnering. You can also do your own. So last year, I know, so here on the screen, you can see a training that we were part of and another one that we were not a part of. Organizations training their own staff and their partner organizations, community members training on stalking. So again, we have our DIY public awareness workshops, and also many of you have your own experience and expertise that you could talk about. All right. Another type of event that is a great idea and we have seen before is things like UC San Diego did here, hosting a feminist film club night, screening of Twilight, and then talking about media portrayals of stalking, red flags for healthy and toxic relationships, and talking about healthy relationships, etc. So there are a million different TV shows and movies that you could do this with. And of course, we also have our webinar recording on the same topic. And then also some organizations talk with local news agencies to give them some airtime on stalking. So last year we heard about some folks, the folks on the right from Texas, who had a local news segment in Spanish about their work as a victim service agency and also about stalking in January as National Stalking Awareness Month. Just by reaching out, I think, to the TV stations and asking if they would be interested, since January is National Stalking Awareness Month. So those are all materials that we create geared specifically towards NSAM, ideas that we specifically have for NSAM. But as I've said, you can use them the other 11 months of the year. Really, there's nothing stopping you. We really want the conversation to continue throughout the year. And we also have a bunch of materials geared towards awareness that are not related to NSAM. So they can be used during January. Also, they can be used the rest of the year. So we have our public awareness workshop that we mentioned you can use in NSAM. And we have that geared towards the general public as well as one geared towards towards campuses. And that's ready for anyone to pick up, look through, and give that presentation. We call it a DIY workshop because we give you the slides, the facilitator guide, the videos, the handouts, everything you could need. We have, so this is on the left is the first few songs in our stalking playlist. And I love pairing the stalking playlist with our videos about stalking. I have yet to organize one or go to it, but I really would love to go to a stalking awareness karaoke night. I'm not a very good singer, so that's not the reason. But someone suggested this and I think did it last year, and it just sounds like such a fun way to raise awareness around stalking. You have this whole playlist. Folks can choose song froms or come up with their own songs, and then interspersed throughout the night, also showing videos about why it's important to learn about stalking, why context is so important to understand about stalking, how stalking and sexual violence intersect, how stalking and domestic violence intersect. We have a bunch of awareness videos, so combining that, having fun while also learning something. So if any of you plan one, please email me and let me know, especially if you're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. because that's where I live. Um, we also have a whole guide that I previously mentioned on tips for awareness educators. So particularly, we're thinking about campuses here, though other folks can and do prevention and awareness education. But in our guide, we have activity ideas like the one here where it's pictured. We have this activity about how does stalking look, sound, and feel, breaking folks up into small groups and having them brainstorm what stalking can look like, sound like, feel like. We have a whole bunch of other activity ideas for getting small groups to brainstorm what they know about stalking, what they how professionals should be responding, what campuses and other folks can do to support victims, and basically to raise awareness and understanding around stalking. Also, the other 11 months of the year, think about how you can incorporate stalking into other awareness months and days. So, of course, SPARC, because we are focused on stalking, we always talk about the intersection of stalking with other awareness months or days around the year. So during October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we always post about the intersection of domestic violence and stalking. Same for Sexual Assault Awareness Month in April. For Veterans Day, we post about some research about the effects or prevalence rates of stalking and veterans. Teen dating abuse, elder abuse, during Pride Month, talking about how stalking can uniquely show up or affect LGBTQ plus folks. So we always post about this, but we also would encourage you to, if your organization is doing a series of posts about domestic violence during October, what if you did one about domestic violence and stalking? So thinking about ways to incorporate stalking in other awareness activities, months, days throughout the year. Again, throughout the year, you can order printed materials from us, the brochures and posters available in English and Spanish. And then our short handbook, we do not print that. That is designed for you as an agency to print and have in your office area for victims and generally for awareness. And you can see some of the languages that we've had it translated to on the screen. English and Spanish, but also Arabic, Burmese, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Tagalog, Vietnamese, and Portuguese. So all of those materials are available on our website, stalkingawareness.org. And you can sign up for our newsletter, you can follow us online, and you are also absolutely welcome to contact us. We have a contact us form on our website. I know Emma put our info@stalkingawareness.org email address in the chat at one point, and also this is my contact information here. Working at SPARC, it's literally our jobs to talk with you. That's why we have these jobs. That's what they pay us to do. So training, technical assistance, answering your questions, creating these materials and making them freely available on the website to help make it easier for you to help us raise awareness for stalking, improve the response so that we can all be better supporting victims and better at holding offenders accountable. So I will stay on and see if y'all have any questions. You are welcome to type in the chat if you have any questions. And let me see. I am reading a question now. Oh, I see. Okay, so I see a question about someone was asking about specifically content geared to stalkers who retain personal investigator firms to stalk, tech stalking. So we, for NSAM and also generally on our website, we we don't have a lot of materials. I mean, we don't have materials really geared towards the stalkers. We have materials to support victims, and we do have some materials for professionals who are trying to hold the offenders accountable. Particularly where the question was about technology facilitated stalking. And we do not provide on our website information about tech facilitated. I mean, we have like a fact sheet about it, but we don't provide the details of specific technology tactics or what to do about them because we don't want to give stalkers ideas for how to stalk. We don't want to teach them about how to use technologies that they don't already know about to stalk. And so we also don't have public awareness materials around that. But particularly for the person who asked, if you haven't already, I would highly, well, actually for everyone, I don't know why I would say only the person who asked the question, for everyone. NNEDV's Safety Net project is a fantastic resource with a million resources on tech facilitated stalking. So it's from the National Network to End Domestic Violence, and the Safety Net project is all about technology abuse, stalking and otherwise. It's geared towards intimate partner abuse, but it's really pretty much everything is useful for anyone experiencing tech abuse. And they really do dive into technology safety planning and different ways that victims often experience tech abuse and how victims and the agencies supporting them can better support the victims and try to keep them safe using technology. So if you haven't already, check out that safety net project. And I'm now looking through. Thank you all so much for saying thanks and that it was a great presentation. I love to hear that. Thank you. It's nice, especially when a webinar like today where I only see the wonderful faces of our ASL interpreters and literally nobody else on the screen. So thank you for humoring me and typing into the chat. Someone asked about this webinar being recorded and available. I believe we are planning, I think we were planning to record it, so I hope it has been recorded. And if it has, we will be posting it on the SPARC website as part of the training archive page. Oh, yep. Sorry, I'm late. I'm scrolling through. Emma said a caption recording will be available. So, yes, it will. Ooh, a QR code for the playlist. Now that is a great idea. Emma, we got to do that. I'm going to make a note. So true. Dana has a lot of playlists. She has a million Halloween playlists. If you like that type of music, check it out. And Emma linked to the Spotify playlist since we do not yet have a QR code, but that's coming in the future. Thank you for the suggestion.
Hi, Shannon here. I had you all down for 90 minutes. Did you want me to end?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would keep it open maybe for another minute to see if we have more questions roll
Sure.
in, but thank you. I think 60 minutes was really all we needed.
Perfect. I'll keep it
Um,
open. Just let me know.
Thank you. I will. Stalking awareness trivia on Facebook. That's a great idea. I really like that. Stalking awareness trivia. I'm gonna have to think about that for next year. As I, excuse me, write that down. Stalking awareness trivia. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here, folks. And I do see that we had one comment or question in the chat from someone talking about their own experience with stalking. And I am so sorry to hear about that. About the whole situation. We unfortunately hear about that a lot. And I do want to be clear that we at SPARC are funded to help the helpers. We are not funded to be direct service providers, so we don't work with stalking victims directly on their cases. So a couple things though that do stick out to me. We often talk about how threats in particularly in stalking can be indirect or direct, and that part of the reason Spark is doing our work and a lot of what we do is explaining to responding professionals um, explaining how important the context is to understanding threats and stalking. And so one thing that we work with providers on is working with victims to better be able to succinct, like quickly, like without sharing a life story, kind of the big impact things, the important pieces of slices of information in life that are important to share, to explain the context of a situation, to explain why something was a threat, why something was threatening, scary, frightening, etc. Um, and it's a common issue we see across the US with responders and with victims and not being taken seriously. And actually, excuse me, another thing that we often talk about is that a common response to victims is just block their phone number, change your phone number, move so they can't find you again. And actually, there's some research that shows that when a stalker can no longer contact, access, communicate with a victim in the way that they have been, like blocking a phone number or blocking an account online, that can sometimes cause stalkers to escalate their behavior because previously they were able to access the stalker in a certain way. And then when they find they can't anymore, they often decide to change their tactics because they still want that contact, that communication, that making themselves relevant in the victim's life. So we do have a bunch of resources on our website geared towards the professionals explaining these types of issues that we run across around the country very frequently. So I would recommend looking at those and checking out our website for more information. So thank you all so much for showing up today and spending an hour with us. I know I don't see any more questions coming into the chat. So thank you all for coming. And Shannon, I think we are set to say goodbye.